Hey there, it's Will from Potato Strong. I was asked by Victoria from my nonleatherlife.com to answer some interview questions about this high-carb diet, and I thought I'd go through them now. So the first question she had was, can you briefly say how much weight you lost and what program you were following when you lost it? So I've basically lost 27 pounds, a little bit more, since July 2013. The numbers are, I was 206 on July 1st, and I'm currently 179 at 6 feet tall and 44 years old. And I've been doing some body weight exercises just at home, and I've gained strength in areas, so I'm sure I've gained some muscle as well. That's why, I say 27 plus pounds. Prior to July, when I look back at some of the entries I had made in different websites, I was actually 214. And when I look back at some of the pictures and the videos I've done, you can really see the weight, like in the face and that type of thing. And the diet I'm using is basically, I see it as a lifestyle. It's called the Starch Solution by Dr. McDougall, which is basically some fruit, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. And I can get into more details, in some of the other questions. Second question Victoria had was, how did I find out about this lifestyle, and did I go vegan first, or did I go high-carb vegan all at once? There's different types with vegans. You can have lots of fat and raw and cooked and that type of thing. The funny thing is, I got signed up for this Netflix account, and I've seen other documentaries on animal issues and factory farming and that, but I was watching these documentaries, Forks Over Knives, Engine 2 Diet, Fat, Sick, or Nearly Dead, and there's other ones. And when I saw that, it really hit home, and I decided to go 100% plant-based, low-fat, no oil. So that was from some of the Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. McDougall's ideas as far as like going low-fat, because in vegan world, there's a lot of fatty desserts and oils and nuts in a lot of recipes. So that's the low-fat, no oil part of it. But for about 10 years or more, I've been vegetarian, mostly from animal rights issues. But still, because of the cheese, you think, well, the animals aren't getting killed at the time, so you're kind of, well, okay, I'll eat some cheese and sour cream and that. And for some people, that's really the hardest thing to give up. So, you're kind of justifying to some extent. But mostly, I have been vegetarian for quite a while, eating some of the fake meat products. And it says, so number 3, Victoria asked, had you tried many other diets before? And had you been at your old weight your whole life? Or did you have a fairly recent large weight gain that you were trying to lose? Basically what happens for me and probably most people is there's a slow increase in weight over time. So when you're in high school, you start gaining more and more weight. But for me, 6 feet tall and a little bit of a muscular frame, you justify it a bit. You get to 200 pounds, you think, you're still kind of stocky and that. But a few times I remember back in Alberta, Canada, it's kind of the beef industry, Alberta beef, and that, I hit a peak of 220, 222 or something, and just so what happens is, and a few times I've peaked, like I said earlier, 214, 215. So what'll happen is when you start eating a lot of crap, even as a vegetarian with cheese and oil and junk food, chips and dip and all that type of thing, I peaked, at least 2 or 3 times in the past 20 years, and in some ways that becomes a way to instigate some dietary changes, but usually it's not really a diet. I didn't really pick and choose certain diets. I have read books occasionally on the Zone and Body for Life and things like that, but I never really did diets per se. I would just kind of cut out junk, as much as I could, avoid some fast food, and start exercising. And that doesn't tend to work because you still eat certain foods that keep that craving and the desire for those types of foods. So really, it was inspired by some of these documentaries that just made you aware of what you were doing. And number 4, did you think you would lose any weight when you started, and what convinced you to give it a shot? I was pretty sure I would lose weight on this, because when you look at, I was looking at Engine 2 Diet, and they looked in people's cupboards, and they had the oil and the junk food and cheese and mayonnaise, and started to realize, like, this stuff just, like with fat, you have 9 calories per gram compared to 4, on average for carbs, and I realized how much fat and oil, even insidious, putting oil in spaghetti sauce, and I had these sun-dried tomatoes in oil, and just Caesar salad with mayonnaise, and it was just getting out of control. So I was pretty sure that it would work. How quickly did I start noticing changes when I started, and did I notice a difference in how I felt? It started happening pretty quickly. I've got actually a spreadsheet with a graph that I put on my Facebook page, and I've been plotting my weight, and I went from 206 in July to 188 in mid-October. So that was, July, August, September, and so 3.5 months. I felt like that was pretty quick. You have little ups and downs with water weight and stuff, but I was pretty strict to this diet, and I think that was key. That was about that was kind of took that extra weight. You're after that you're pretty happy, and you're just slowly losing some of the extra, but it was great to just get rid of that 18 or 20 pounds within a few months. And then in mid-October, I started doing some body weight training and drinking more water, and I noticed that the weight started to go up a bit. But I got this body fat monitor, and I started to measure my body fat, which is around 20% at the time, and I started seeing it go down more steadily than the weight's ups and downs. And I was making gains, like I couldn't even do one chin up, and then I eventually got to 10 or more, and then I started doing more sets, and so I was pretty confident between the body fat monitoring, which was going down, that there was actually fat loss, and it wasn't gaining fat or anything like that. So weighing yourself once a week or less is probably a good idea, just so you avoid some of these ups and downs and emotional issues. As far as feeling better, I feel a bit lighter overall. You're not as lethargic when you're eating the fatty meals. You kind of have a full stomach, and I used to go to bed sometimes at midnight and still feel uncomfortable, and you don't really feel like doing anything or exercising when you have that kind of drowsiness feeling. Does weight come off gradually over the years, or I lost it, or did I lose it rapidly with my wife? I think there's a point, you lose that initial extra weight. There's some people that are really like 80, 100 pounds overweight. Generally, that would come down pretty quickly, and then it would slow down, because you have less weight on your body, and you're not going to be burning as many when you move around, and so there's less caloric requirements. You've got a basal metabolic rate for your daily functions, and then you have the activity level, so those things start to reduce. But after about 9 months now, I haven't really changed anything. I've been eating a lot of starches, so the weight has slowed down a bit, but the weight loss, but it's still happening. With my wife, she didn't really have much to lose, and wasn't really trying to, but she lost probably about 8 pounds, and it was a good thing. And she didn't really think, there's maybe a little bit on the midsection, but she wasn't really going for weight loss, and that it made her even in better shape. But it wasn't as rapid for her, because she's fairly close to her ideal weight, and so I've got like a slope where it goes down quicker, and now it's slowing down. But so I think that a lot of people, there's going to be a continual steady decline over years. Like, I'm expecting that I'll just keep getting leaner over time. But sometimes you do hit an equilibrium, and then you might, if you want to keep losing, there's some things you can do to reduce the calories by reducing starches and adding a bit more vegetables. But you got to make sure you get enough calories, and that you're not hungry and that type of thing. So it says here, now for the golden question: having lost the weight you have lost, in your opinion, can you tell us in your own words how you think people can lose weight? I think that I look at everything as calorie density. So they say that people eat generally the same volume of food, like the same weight of food, 3 to 5 pounds a day. And I think the general problem is that the food is just too calorie dense, and that's due to the fats in the food, oils and meat and dairy in food, especially restaurants. People are eating a lot of restaurants, junk food, takeout, packaged food. There's refined sugars and processed food, and it's just high density calorie. So a little bit of oil is hundreds of calories, and it doesn't really fill you up very much. But so I think that if you eat, my advice is to focus on fruit, vegetables, legumes like beans and lentils, like black beans, lentils, and whole grains, rice. You can have some pasta and some bread, but those are things that are kind of on the high end of the calorie density scale. But things that would be, off the charts with oil, nuts, meat and dairy, and refined foods. You can have a little bit of nuts here and there, but those are the things you have to watch, especially if your tendency is to binge. Once you eat a few things like chocolate or something, you go crazy. And so eating whole foods and going 100% into this diet so that you break those addictive habits. So like, people who smoke or drink, they don't keep doing that. They go 100%. And really, there are people that might want to phase it out over time, but I just feel ideally what I did was I went 100%, and then you start really looking forward to new things to eat, like fruit. You crave some of the potatoes and the vegetables and salads and things like that. So as long as you keep that connection to cheese and other things and meat, and that, it's going to be hard to break that cycle. Number 8, she asked me about a post where I said to cut out the oil and stick 100% until you reach your weight. And do you think it's possible to lose weight eating restaurant food and food with oil from time to time? And why do I think 100% is the best way to go? I asked some people, and they had 2 ways to do it: gradually, like sometimes for their husbands who aren't willing to do it, or 100%. And there's a mix. I think that the best way to go, and the way I did it, was to go 100% because I just break any of those addictions. If you go to a restaurant and once in a while there might be something with oil, if it's vegan, I'm gonna say okay, but I wouldn't go there a lot. And what you can do is really try to call ahead of time and ask the chef, or go in there and sort of look for variations and really ask. But it's going to be difficult because there's oil in everything. They might have like pre-made sauces and things, but as much as you can ask the chef. My wife Bonnie has done that quite a few times, and you have to have a bit of confidence for that. If you're super shy and embarrassed, it's going to be tough for you. So you might want to try to avoid the restaurants. If you can eat ahead of time, like eat mashed potatoes and that, and go in there and just try to avoid those situations. Like since July when I started, I literally haven't been in a restaurant. So there's ways around that, going socializing and having people come over and just getting out of the habit and trying to come up with new ways of socializing. But if you have to do it, try to find alternatives. And like I say, even phone ahead of time. We do that if we go to conferences or whatever. A couple times we've talked to the chef or asked for specific meals. But once in a while, if you had a little bit of oil in there, I guess that's okay. But it's just most of the time, cooking at home has been really key, and avoiding not having any of those oils in the house. Okay, number 9, what are your top 3 favorite recipes? One of my favorites now is baked fries with ketchup. So I just make a big, huge plate of fries, and I have recipes and videos for all this on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/potatostrong and facebook.com/potatostrong, twitter.com/potatostrong. Just in the past when you had French fries and that, and you just think you can't eat that ever again, and it's great. It's just super tasty and filling. Number 2 currently has been my brown rice with black beans and salsa and a couple of corn tortillas. So I bake the corn tortillas in the oven or in a toaster, or if you have a toaster oven or something like that. They get really crunchy if you bake them long enough. past the bend stage. They have to get crunchy. And brown rice has, I put some vegetable stock powder in there and cumin on the rice after it's cooked with some hot chunky salsa. It's just unbelievable, the taste of that with the beans. And the beans help fill you up. I found that before, when I was vegetarian, rice and vegetables, like a stir fry, just didn't fill me up. Lentil shepherd's pie with brown vegan gravy and corn on the side. That's a great one. I've got a recipe for that too. Just very filling comfort meals and things that are easy and quick that you can keep making them over and over again. Okay, so number 10 was, have I tried Fruitarianism or high carb raw? And is it true that I think starches and grains are not bad for you, like 80-10-10 author Doug Graham believes? I think it's possible, or sorry, as far as the Fruitarian, I never really tried that. Like, I've got a background from a Polish-Ukrainian background, and that was meat and potatoes and that. So the starch solution really hit home with me. I do eat fruit, and I eat raw, like salads and some raw veggies, but I don't really think starches and grains are bad for you. Like, there's people that legitimately have celiac and some sensitivities, but the vast majority of people, are fine, and they look for, especially if they're eating meat and dairy and that, and they're trying to find some reason why they're overweight. There's a lot of paleo books out now, and Wheat Belly and Grain Brain, and I just don't think we need to be scaring people away from any kind of carb. And I don't think a lot of people really have problems. I mean, there's all sorts of grain. You got the wheat and the barley, rye, and all that. Lots of alternatives, but just we're talking to majority of people getting overweight and eating meat and dairy, and really grain can be an amazing way to go. And as far as starches, same thing. Like, large populations, like Dr. McDougall says, of civilizations, Asians living on rice and veggies. Central America, you got maize, corn. You got some of the Incas. You got sweet potatoes, Africans, Ugali, and it's just a huge populations of long-living starch-based people. And they say it just doesn't make any sense to say that these are bad foods, and I just don't think that that's the way to go. If you can just eat fruit and it's working for you, then I say fine, go with that. If you're finding that you're not able to do it, and maybe you're hungry or you can't get the fruit, there's people around the world that can't get raw, cheap quality fruit from, like, people in the States, and so we can't really paint everybody with the ability to spend the money on fruit. Rice and potatoes and beans can be stored for long periods of time, and in cold climates, there's a lot of other factors than just what might be an ideal situation. Number 11, do you think it's possible for everyone to lose weight? Yeah, I do think it is possible. Sometimes people bring up, like, some kind of a rare situation, like a brain issue or some damage or something where the pituitary gland or something got damaged, but the vast majority, obesity is just growing crazy, and it's not like everybody developed this genetic defect all of a sudden. I think we got to focus on the majority of people, and it's just easy, cheap food now. You go in the store, I see what people are buying every day when I go to the store. Crackers and chips and meat and dairy and milk and just all this stuff that's just high calorie, and I never see anybody pretty much eating fruits and vegetables like I do, buying in the store. Plus, you've got the growth. If you actually look at the consumption, not what people are necessarily saying, but the fast food growth in the restaurant chains and everything. It's just people are super busy and they're not able to cook. There's a book called Cooked, Michael Pollan. It's just people are not cooking and they're outsourcing their cooking. And that's where all the oils and the fats and they're making food that's tasty with salt and fat and sugar. So I think getting back to cooking our own food is the way to go. And the majority of the weight loss is really from food. So there's a lot of things like Biggest Loser and that where people are trying to promote, exercise and a lot of pain and running and just sweating. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. 95% of it, to me, is the food. You should be, exercising for fitness and losing weight and fat and getting healthy in the kitchen. And so diet is the key. So why are you vegan with regard to animals, and do you find it difficult being vegan around people who don't understand why it's important not to harm animals? It's not so much difficult for me, but I'm pretty. I'm kind of a homebody. I stay home most of the time, but I have sort of a strong will and a strong belief in, that we don't need to kill animals for food. I mean, we don't need much protein. There's just as good or better protein in beans and in vegetables, and you don't even need that much. And there's so many health benefits from fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains, and there's so many damaging issues with meat and dairy. So when I go somewhere and people are saying anything, I stand up for my beliefs and also set an example based on the health. And a lot of the people that are actually saying things are not in the greatest of health, so you can sort of shrug them off and not really pay any attention, because it's not really people that you want to be listening to and following. So I'm a very strong-willed person. I've pushed back a lot of people, a lot of guys, about protein and muscles and that whole aspect of paleo manliness, eating meat and animals. And I just think I'm setting an example of people and men that care about animals and want to help them. And when I do this, I'm interested, and I'm super happy about people that have lost weight, dropped their blood pressure, got off diabetes medications. That's all amazing. I'm super happy. But there's also an unbelievable benefit to the animals that aren't getting killed or abused. And the environmental aspects, so you've got the water usage, clear cutting, methane emissions, and all that, and at the top is the animal abuse and death. So just a huge amount of benefits. One person at a time, bottom up. So just spreading the word has been the best experience so far. Top 3 tips for weight loss. For me, and what I would recommend is a starch-centered diet. So that means, there's different labels in that as far as raw tofu and raw and fruitarian and starchivores and vegans and all this stuff. But a starch-based diet means that the starch is the centerpiece, and that's the really filling part, and it's higher in calorie than some of the lower foods like salad or something like that. So you base your diet on starch, and you're going to be very satiated. Like potatoes are unbelievably satiating, and you're not going to snack in between. And then you have your vegetables and you have your salads, and there's so many benefits to salad. Like you have it opens up your endothelium and heals that for heart disease and all this type of thing. But just for weight loss, starch just keeps you satiated, and it keeps you from binging and snacking in between meals, which can add hundreds of calories, or going and buying junk food, or going out to restaurants and eating too much because you're hungry. The second thing I would say beyond starch-centered diet is to go 100%, because there are ways to gradually do this, and some people have to do that. But when I went 100%, it breaks those addictions, and the taste buds adjust now. So you get the quickest results because you're eating lower calorie density food. And the third thing is avoidance of restaurants, fast food, and junk food. So like I said earlier, like if you're going to restaurants, it's just really hard to get healthy food. There's chemicals and stuff. There's a lot of fats hidden in oils, the way they cook things. And obviously, fast food is probably even worse, and junk food. And just those cravings and that are just going to keep you going back. And because when you eat something really tasty, salty, and that, you think about it afterwards and you want to go back and get some more. And so those are some 3 of the things. Just adherence. Like when I say 100%, I mean just sticking to it day after day after day, because I see a lot of people looking for something new, a new restaurant or new products that come out. Maybe they get bored, and it's just like rice and beans and salsa and corn tortillas and potatoes and rolled oats for breakfast with strawberries and banana milk, and day after day. And you can vary some things. There's different things you can do, but just doing it and sticking to it. It's really that simple. So those are my 3 key points, and what I think has helped me so far is just been adhering to this. And it's still fun and super tasty food. You're not restricting yourself. It's just focusing on tasty things that you can eat, that you love eating. Can I recommend any books, resources, or people we should follow to learn more? And why do I recommend them? Some of the key books, I mentioned a little bit earlier, some Starch Solution, Dr. John McDougall. Like I say, it gives you that, you had a lot of fear about carbs and that, so he just tells you about potatoes and beans, like rice and bread, and just how these civilizations lived on this, and warriors and people going to battle. I mean, the barley men and stuff like that. So it just gives you that confidence in the starches, because there's so much fear about carbs out there. So that was really, and the other thing is the satiety of potatoes has been key for me to stay full and not to be binging and eating other foods. Engine 2 diet, like I say, clearing out the cupboards and just being aware of what was actually in my, in my cupboards and fridge. Forks Over Knives. I mean, you got talks with Dr. Esselstyn and Colin Campbell and Dr. McDougall, so it's just that whole group there. Jeff Novick, Calorie Density. There's a DVD. I'll put these links in the bottom of the video, but Calorie Density is really key to me, because you can eat a lot of food, a lot of volume of tasty food, but it's lower in calorie. So all you do is make some changes to what you're eating, and the weight comes off and you get healthy. It's really that simple. Jeff Novick is also in the forums, so there's a McDougall forum if you go to drmcdougall.com, and he'll answer any questions and help you if you have any issues. The Pleasure Trap, Doug Lyle, he talks about, what we seek, the pain and pleasure, and how these foods are addictive, and how to break those cycles. Those are some of the main people that I follow. Like I say, Jeff Novick, Dr. McDougall is really key. I'll put some links there. And if you want to check out my site, so I have a website, potatostrong.com, and there's recipes and various discussions and videos that I put on YouTube. So youtube.com/potatostrong. And I've got all sorts of recipes that are pretty quick and easy and tasty, like comfort foods. And I think are going to help people that want to do this diet. So you could have people in the meat and dairy industry, men who don't really want to go from that to kale and quinoa, and they're kind of don't understand veganism. This is like healthy comfort food that's you're going to keep your protein, you're going to keep your muscles, and you don't have to worry about withering away or anything like that. And then the facebook.com/potatostrong is my Facebook page, where I post pictures of what I'm eating and answer questions as well. So hopefully that helps anyone who's considering doing this. I highly recommend people go to a high carb, low fat diet, and you'll just be amazing health benefits as well as weight loss, fat loss, specifically. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll talk to you soon.